There once was a man called Abe. His drawings were none too shabby. The audience ate. His art was so great, it belonged inside of an abbey. Yoshitoshi Abe's style is really unique, and he attaches himself to some of the most soul-destroying projects to come out of the anime industry. If you're at all familiar with Welcome to the NHK, Haibani Renmei, Serial Experiments Lane, or Technolize, then you've already seen some of this man's involvements. His characters have a distinct look to their features, an aimlessness to them that I love. The hopeless characters and the collapsing world of Technolize, itself modelled off of the behavioural sync experiment, is this depressing cyberpunk world made all the more violent, melancholic, and disturbing for the designs he puts forth to the world of Lux. I won't spoil that greatness, but the designs of the world and how that society chose to separate themselves is a disturbing thing, and Abe's design is the icing on the cake. The dismal and colourful palette is used to really interesting effect with the separate layers that humanity has carved out for itself. Lux is Latin for light, something you would associate with a positive element, but is used for really a kind of absolute checkmate for society, in the worst possible way. And the more sedentary layer of Lux resembles the paintings of Edward Hopper, a realist painter that captured some really lovely settings in a way that conveys a great sense of peace. But in Technolize, it elevates and brings to life some of those realist scenes by setting them in a more dark and abstract background. It should be a no-brainer which layer of Lux one would prefer to live in, but the way this anime ends up portraying the two sides honestly has me siding with the more brutish terrain. It's kind of Lynchian, rest in peace King, not just in the way that it takes a painting and brings it to life, but in the way that things kind of smudge together from this romantic European land to these old Victorian trains, and then quickly turn into a sandy and eastern cyberpunk heavy world. And that blurring of the line between where the cyber starts and the world that we knew stops just creates an utterly compelling backdrop that gets you through even the slow episodes. And those slow episodes become way less slow by the time the whole journey is over. The whole anime is like a meditation on the concept itself. The ending to this one still haunts me to this day, and it's unlike anything else that's been made before or since. Truly an underappreciated gem, and the kind that cannot exist in this day and age. Or can it? After all, art house isn't dying, it's already dead. 8 out of 10. Then there's Serial Experiments Lane, which is pretty much the opposite in terms of the public radar. It doesn't really need any introduction, but with the background being, when it was released, modern day Japan, it's the characters that stand out, and Lane is almost like a mascot in and of herself at this point, for the story of a girl lost in The Wire, and the most ahead of its time story in terms of its allusion to the effects of the internet and dissociation with the real world. I have to admit, I'm one of the people who see it as a masterpiece as well, and one that would just not be the same at all if Lane and the other characters didn't look and weren't designed to look the way that they do. It's a 9 out of 10 from me. I've said that both of these wouldn't be the same without the designs that they have, but I feel like the perfect example of how that works is in another example, Welcome to the NHK, because without any kind of supernatural quality or surrealism at play, Abe's style heightens the work of a show that's set, again, in the real world. It gives a realism to the strokes of sadness this time that the characters experience in their lives. And in terms of the dark thoughts that may lie behind some faces, and the mortal decisions they may make of themselves, I think Abe's design captures the human heart in conflict so well, a show dealing with real-world issues behind the geist of its characters. Another 8 out of 10. Haibani Renmei is underrated as hell, one of those really abstract, even metaphorical shows in some ways. Again, it's Abe's design, this time for angels, that gives something that would normally be seen as cute a tinge of darkness as the mystery unfolds. Another 8 out of 10 in my opinion. You ever seen the film Edge of Tomorrow? Well, I just learned that it is straight up an adaptation of a light novel, which Abe provided artwork for. Anyway, whole massive spiel aside, his next project is going to be Despera. And it's been his next project for a long time now. Yoshitoshi Abe is a bit of an outsider artist really, with most of his work being unpublished manga in the form of doujinshi. That was how he wrote Nia 7, The Nightmare of Fabrication, and Haibani Renmei. Despera is exciting because it reunites the staff from a lot of his past. Chiaki J. Konaka, the writer of Serial Experiments Lain and Textnalize, is returning to write Despera, and before his untimely death, Ryutaro Nakamura, the director, was penned to return as well. The look of Despera seems to be a kind of hodgepodge between the look of Technolize and Serial Experiments Lain, which I am all for. As I said, this has been in the works and the next project for a long time now. Nakamura and his death is already, you might have surmised, a big answer to the question of what happened to Despera. But there's more to it than that. It sounds like a lot of hoopla unless you know about their past work, and maybe that's why it kind of faded into obscurity. As the time's gone by, perhaps the world has just moved further away from the kind of art that these guys make. But what really happened to Despera? It was originally announced in 2009, alongside the release of the light novel itself, both written and illustrated by Konaka and Abe, respectively. In 2010, production was halted due to Nakamura's failing health, and then in 2013, he passed away from pancreatic cancer. But then in 2014, 2014 was 11 years ago. 11 years ago, Abe said the anime would move forward with a new director. Then, in 2018, they said it was in development hell, only elaborating further in 2021 that this was because of financing the show itself, that it was 80% funded, and that Konaki and Abe had both still been working on it with the exception of 2020 to 2021 for obvious world-affecting reasons. In the lack of anything concrete, you'll find a million scatterbrain thoughts all over X as to the status of this thing. This video is a madman's errand. I've covered a few shows and movies in the past that shared similar productions to Despera, and it's kind of helped with where to look when it comes to going down the rabbit hole. There's The Dreaming Machine, Satoshi Kon's final film that was a decent chunk into production before he passed away, and the many efforts of its producer Masao Maruyama to try and see it through. Then there was Pluto, an anime from that same producer, a long-running ambition of Masao Maruyama's, and one that did come out, and that one was great. I never made a video about it, but there's also the Uzumaki anime, which seemed to just take forever to come out, and I'd say that one came out to a kind of mixed endpoint, but I still enjoyed it. Ariankis, a fan account for Despera, put the question directly to Abe. In October 2024, they said this: "I'm a big fan of your work, and as you can see, I run something like a Despera fan account. A lot of people have recently followed me, and all of us are interested in the state of production for Despera. Is it still being made? Thank you, and sorry for being so annoying." To which Abe replied, "Thank you for your message. I'm very happy that you remember Despera, but I can't speak about the work. Sorry." To which I asked, "Thank you for your work. Is there any news of the Despera anime? I look forward to it very much." To which Abe did not respond. And that's fair enough. I didn't expect a response, and I really hope the unsolicited question was of no annoyance. I definitely won't be chasing it, but that said, when I asked Chiaki, I said the following: "Thank you for creating so many great anime. I've been following news on Despera for a while and wondered if there was any update on it. At one point I remember it was 80% funded. Was funding accomplished? Is there any way the audience could crowdfund the future of Despera? I know I would pay towards it. Thank you so much." To which Chiaki did reply, "Thank you for your continued interest in Despera. Actually, the production committee has already been formed. However, the number of Japanese anime productions is so large right now that it is difficult to free up studios. However, the structure will be newly changed at the end of 2024, and the production is set for this year to 2027. This is still a long way off, but please be patient and wait for it." Genuinely didn't expect to get the latest scoop with a random question at the end of last year, but there we go. Funding is done, and they are essentially aiming to use the funds to get a studio working on this from now to 2027. I don't know if they actually did manage to secure a studio. It sounds like they didn't, but they have the go-ahead to commence. I recommend people not flood these guys with questions, but yeah, it's funded. Eventually production can begin. 2027 may be the time for this one. That's what happened to Despera, and that's where it's currently at. Unreported, and you heard it here first. So yeah, not all of these videos are unproductive ramblings going on and on and on. Sometimes I actually give back to the community every once in a while. And so yeah, on that note, that's the video. Thanks to my patrons. If you are one, enjoy my analysis of Eren Yeager and the conspiracy against the human race. Just for you. And if you haven't seen, there are a few other exclusives in there as well. Everyone else, subscribe for more. There's a berserk analysis that I cannot wait to get into. And Despera, I'll see you some sunny day.